Hi, my name is Mike Loughran. Welcome to the first video in a series on clinical pharmacology. I'll start with very general concepts and get more specific. I'll try to keep each topic or video under 10 minutes. We'll start with pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic concepts, build up our vocabulary a little bit, and then we'll focus on specific drugs. The main focus will be anesthetics, but these concepts translate into other subspecialties. Let's start with dose response, a concept that's at the core of clinical pharmacology, and it's pretty intuitive. We use alcohol as an example of dose response. In my religion, you can have sips of wine as part of communion starting around 6 or 7 years old. People don't get concerned about the effects or the response because the dose is very small, or you could use the term subtherapeutic. On the opposite side of the spectrum, we have consumption of very large doses of alcohol. If you're a fan of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, you might recall the episode in which Charlie Day's character tries to replicate a legendary feat attributed to Wade Boggs, in which he drinks 70 beers on a cross-country flight. Charlie gets to around 30 beers when he starts to hallucinate and thinks that Wade Boggs is sitting next to him. It's a very comical example of a toxic dose. So you can see that the same drug has different effects at different doses. Now, this concept isn't new. In fact, almost 500 years ago, there was a physician scientist named Paracelsus who understood dose response, and he said that poison is in everything and no thing is without poison. The dosage makes it either a poison or a remedy, and that's very true today in that, say for our anesthetics, they're all potentially dangerous. It's all just in the dose that we give. So we can give a dose that's very helpful and therapeutic to the patient, and that same drug at a different dose can be toxic or even deadly. So the science of optimal clinical use of drugs in humans is clinical pharmacology, and often that deals with finding the most effective dose. And the field of science that deals with finding effective and safe dosage regimens is clinical pharmacokinetics. Now, pharmacokinetics is often described as what the body does to the drug. When we give a dose of drug, it leads to a plasma concentration. But there's many processes in between the dose of the drug and the ultimate plasma concentration. And those processes are absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion. And we often abbreviate this or use an acronym called ADME. When you see a graph that deals with concentration over time, that's looking at the pharmacokinetics of a drug. So pharmacokinetics deals with concentration over time. Now, pharmacodynamics deals with what the drug does to the body. So when we reach that plasma concentration, what effect do we have? And how do different plasma concentrations lead to different effects? Dose response. So if we look at graphs that look at dose or plasma concentration and response or effect, those graphs are pharmacodynamics graphs. Now, so we look at pharmacokinetics or PK that goes from dose to some sort of plasma concentration, and pharmacodynamics goes from plasma concentration to some effect. So these do overlap, and there is a field that looks at both of these, and it's called PK/PD modeling or pharmacokinetic pharmacodynamic modeling, and we'll talk about that in future videos. Now, pharmacokinetics is actually a very young field. It's less than 100 years old. It was really started in 1937 by this man, I hope I don't butcher his name, Thorsten Thorell, and he's considered the father of pharmacokinetics. And he wrote these two papers in 1937 that really kind of started the field. And they dealt with the kinetics of substances in the body from extravascular modes, so PO, IM, sub-Q, things like that, and kinetics of distribution of substances administered IV. And these two papers are really the first papers in pharmacokinetics. And then there really wasn't a text until there wasn't review articles until the 60s really even. There were some texts in the 50s, but they were written in German. And you might wonder, why is this field so young? Well, we have to be able to measure the drug in the plasma, and the analytical chemistry is also a very young field. So this is a picture of a LCMS, or a liquid chromatography mass spectrometry. And this is a method of measuring drug in plasma, and I will talk about that in a future video, kind of the basics of it. Also, this is just a random page from one of the earlier pharmacokinetic texts. It's around 1970, and you can see how math heavy it is. Now, that being math heavy really turns people off from kinetics, but to be a consumer of it, you really don't have to be able to do this math. So don't be discouraged. If you're not a math person, you can still really understand kinetics. But that qualitative approach to looking at drug concentrations over time is incredibly useful. So when we describe this mathematically, that really allows us to make many useful predictions. The other thing that really improved the field or brought the science along is computers. So you can imagine all this math. You can make mistakes. It takes time. All those things. So having computer models and computers that will do a lot of this math for you is a huge time saver, and really has brought the field along. So let's review. When we see a graph that's concentration over time, when we're dealing with time, are we dealing with dynamics, kinetics, or you have no clue? So hopefully you'll remember that has to deal with kinetics. Kinetics has to deal with time. It deals with the absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion of a drug. All right, and then that leaves us with, when we're talking about response or effect, and dose or plasma concentration. So dose response, dose effect, concentration response, concentration effect, those have to deal with dynamics. Those are dynamic. Dynamics, response. Constant time, kinetics. I hope you found this helpful, and I appreciate you listening. I'll try to get out more videos as soon as possible. Thank you. Bye.